Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the last panel of TIGS 2021. Before we get started and I hand this off to the wonderful folks here with me on screen, I want to thank our sponsors once again for making this such a successful event. Our gold sponsor is Ubisoft, and our silver sponsors are Telltale Games, Devolver Digital, Hyper Hippo, Iron Galaxy Studios, Razer, and Tripwire Entertainment. So thank you so much to those folks. And let me pass along the baton to this wonderful group of streamers to talk about ethics and boundaries. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Do we say stuff now? We say words?
I think so.
Okay, all right. Hello, everybody. My name is Anxiety, also known as Marie Shanley. I'm a Take This ambassador and here to moderate this lovely panel of absolutely incredible human beings. On some side of the screen for you, I'm not sure because I'm right left dyslexic. I have Brian, I have Eugenio, and I have Kelli. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's just do a quick, let's give everybody some time to introduce yourselves. Brian, can you go first?
Dang it, I hate going first. Hi, I'm Brian, I'm Urban Bohemian. I'm a variety streamer on Twitch and other places on the internet. As that, I do games and food and TTRPGs. Actually, you're the only person I have not yet played a TTRPG with, so Anxiety, do you want a game sometime?
Yeah, like yesterday, please.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, fine. I'm fine. This is fine. This is cool. It's not like my dream come true or anything. It's totally fine. Eugenio, you're next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eugenio. I am on the internet as DM Jazzy Hands. I use he, him pronouns. I originally actually came from a performing background in musical theater, and that was sort of my career, my trajectory, my life, and then gestures broadly. So as the theater industry shut down, I moved more solidly into gaming in the last couple of years. I was dabbling a bit before that, but moved over here a little bit more in the past few years. And now I'm a regular streamer, TTRPG and video game streamer, podcaster, and narrative and mechanics designer for a couple of different tabletop role-playing games.
Totally, not a big deal. Not at all. Cool. Just awesome. We'll freaking
also,
cool
I better be
stuff.
at that table, I gotta say, you two.
Oh, yeah. I figured it was just, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. That's
yeah.
Okay,
no, it's not just the two of them. It's, yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Great.
Kelli, please introduce yourself and please do not omit your canine companion.
Yes.
I mean, he's the one people really come to see when they see my channel anyway.
I mean, same feels over here. He's just not here right now.
So, hi, I'm Kelli. I'm mostly known as the opera geek on the internet for the very obvious reason that I'm a geek who also happens to be a professional opera singer when there's not a pandemic. Eugenio and I kind of on the same page there. I am a variety streamer. I started streaming D&D and tabletop just, I don't know, for something to do, and it just kept going. And yeah, now I also do the video games. There's a lot of ums. I always forget how to introduce myself. Words, what are words? And I'm currently doing a few games, but not that many, and also fine. I just won't be at your table. And this is Scotty.
Well, you are...
Wait,
hi, Scotty.
I thought you and Scotty were coming to the table. Was that not clear? Was that not clear? Okay. Also, cool, just little geek out moment. And probably, I was about to say like my last one, but that's a lie. But my little geek out moment is that I was at the first TIGS over in Toronto in 2019, and to get to moderate the panel today is a huge honor. So thank you everybody for bearing with me. I hope I don't mispronounce anybody's name because that is like my biggest fear in the world. Okay, so two out of three of you mentioned COVID as a reason for kind of being here. And reading the recent news on Twitch, it seems like that's the reason a lot of new viewers are on Twitch as well. We're seeing there's a huge uptick in how many partners from last year. I don't have the exact numbers, so I don't want to misquote anything. There's a huge uptick in affiliates. So there's a lot of people streaming, but there's also a lot of people watching, and people watching are coming for different reasons. During 2020, Dr. Kelly Dunlap, myself, and Jocelyn Spencer did amazing, really cool research. And I say amazing, not to toot my own horn, but like the research was cool. So what we found out is, and it's going to be published sometime next year, so keep an eye out on that. But what we found out is that there was a heightened need for streamers to kind of serve as that stopgap for people who were experiencing, all of the lovely mental health effects of COVID, wanting to feel less alone, wanting to be entertained, wanting to feel like they're part of a community. And so all of that ultimately landed back on streamers. So I wanted to know kind of if all of you could share, one by one, your experiences with that, if you felt like COVID changed the way that you had to perform, especially, of course, for Eugenio and Kelly. I'd love to hear the specifics of that. But this time, I'm going to start with Kelly. And she's muted. Classic. It's not a Zoom call without a muting.
Kelly. Yeah.
No, I muted because I was typing. I'm sorry. I was trying to be polite. Also, my dog chews really loud, and you can hear it in the microphone. He does. Geez. What was the question? Hi,
COVID,
by the way,
COVID.
I have ADHD.
Oh, so do I. We're good. I totally will work on that forever. COVID, how did it affect how you interact with your viewers and streaming and all that good stuff? So it's pretty broad. Go wherever, but talk about your experience specifically.
Okay. Well, it's a little interesting because I think I kind of came at it a little roundabout than some other people. When I started streaming, the first stream I ever did, which thank God is lost to the ether, was from my PS4, like playing God of War and just screaming at it. And I thought I was just having my friends watch me, and there were other people watching me, and I was like, oh, okay, fine. And I think really COVID allowed me, at least for a while, to put a little more time into it, a little more effort into layouts and making sure the camera looked good, and having guests come on, like having Doug Cockle come on to watch me play Witcher and torment me while I play Witcher. And doing things like the parasocial relationships panel that Brian was on, which was great.
Super cool.
And it also gives me a way to think that I'm still actually a performer. Which
how has your relationship? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Also ADHD. But how, as your relationship, do you feel like with your, like, having created a community in the COVID space? How do you feel like that's been for you?
It's been pretty interesting, mostly because I'm not. This is going to sound very strange, and I don't want to see facial expressions on Eugenio or Brian. But I'm literally, until the last few years, I'm not used to having more than just a few friends. And I'm not used to having people like me. It's I grew up all through school very much the outcast kid, very much bullied. So it's been a bit of a mental adjustment to suddenly be like, oh, these people are watching me just because I'm odd and doing things. Okay. And I'm really proud of the community that I've built. It's not as big maybe as some other communities, but my hedgehogs are really great. And I try to foster a little bit more positive community, especially in the face of some of the things that have been going on. But it's also a community where we're not afraid to, tell people when they're not being great to each other. And it's been interesting to see other people find their voice on Twitch and see it evolve, especially like the two lovely people, the other panelists, the co-DMs of Rivals of Waterdeep now. Like, it's been great. COVID has felt very isolating as a performer. and it can get really dark at times. So sometimes it's nice just to turn on the stream and be like, hey, my day sucks and I feel kind of crappy. How about y'all? Let's go kick flowers in Animal Crossing or something. I don't know. But
don't kick the flowers. Don't do it. Don't stomp on my flowers.
I haven't been there in months. They probably voted me off the island like Lord of the Flies. But yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Honestly.
That sounds really, really lovely. Now, what we're looking for here, no, I'm kidding. So what I was going to trail off to say was that we are kind of, I'm also wondering about the boundaries and the dynamics with, people coming into our communities and expecting us to be able to give. I mean, we're all experiencing COVID, but there are definitely instances where we have to establish those boundaries with communities where they're like, I need you to entertain me. I'm going to give you $5 for that. And you're like, okay, but that does not purchase me. That purchases, you're just helping me. So thank you for that. So, but I would love to hear, I would love, Eugenio, how was your experience then?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Kelli, there are positives. The big negative, of course, is that the industry that I spent my life training to be a part of sort of fell apart for a couple of years. But as Kelli said, that did give us a chance to sort of explore other things. And I, as I say that, I want to be very clear that what was not helpful was people saying you should learn to pivot, right? That's not.
Oh yeah, wasn't that great? That great?
That's not helpful. Mm-hmm. But having a chance to spend some time and explore other things and get to be a much, like I said, to really dive into streaming and gaming and game design was great. And as Kelli also said, I feel like I'm repeating, but I'm going to get to your specific question. Building a community, particularly at the beginning when we were all isolated, and for those of us who are used to being out there a little bit more and are sort of used to regular social interactions and things like that, we're a little more extroverted even. It was great at first to have an outlet where it was exciting. It was fun. It was a thing that I could do for fun and for a little bit of money. And there were people there who I got to interact with and who seemed to take heart in having me to interact with as well, and the other people in the community. So there was so much great about my first sort of big dive into the industry, despite the, and I don't want to undersell how terrible, obviously, the pandemic has been. But then as it went on, folks started needing more. Streamers, we needed more. Viewers felt like they needed more. And as you sort of mentioned, Marie, there have been times where there's been an expectation of more from the streamers because the viewers felt like they needed it, because they were paying, subscribing, tipping, whatever, and feeling as if that entitled them to something. And so things did get a little tougher, and it did become more incumbent upon us as streamers to be clear about our boundaries. And to set those up and to know what they needed to be for us to stay healthy, And so I will say that I have been very fortunate, and the community that I've cultivated sort of is all very on the same page about what we need and what is reasonable for us to expect of not just me as one of the streamers that they hang out with, but as across the board, all the folks that they interact with on Twitch. And that is to say, at least for my community, we are cozy is a word that gets tossed around a lot in our sort of corner of Twitch, but just to mean, low key, even if the game we're playing is high energy, it's a low key space. We can chat. We are there with each other. We hope that we are, comfortable and able to bring things up. But we also, I will say my group does a pretty good job of recognizing or hearing if I need to say to them, that's a little bit much. I want you to be okay. But I am not the person that is going to be your therapist, is really the big thing that I think we're going to dig a little deeper on, right?
Oh yeah.
But is that we are there and we are a source of entertainment first and foremost. And I know a lot of folks feel like we are more to that than them, and that in some ways is very touching and in some ways is very frightening. But it's been about having that dialogue with the community, with my community, with the folks that are in my chat, with my moderators who are invaluable. And I know these two will say the same, and so will you, I'm sure, that the moderators have been invaluable to us, particularly as we discover what we need these boundaries to be, how we want to set these boundaries exactly. And I'll also say, it's been a really great, expansive learning experience for a lot of us. One of the other things that is really, really, really high up on our list of rules, on our list of priorities in my chat, is respect, is mutual respect for each other and whatever we are going through and whatever that is, right? And so, we've cultivated a space where things like respectful language in terms of, slurs, very casual slurs about neurodivergent people or trans people or queer people or whatever it is. Things like pronouns are important. I have to push back a little bit, actually, to what I heard in the previous panel. And to say that those of us who are a part of marginalized identities, one of the things we've learned through this pandemic and finding these communities where we have that respect is that I'm very sorry if you feel offended and uncomfortable when I correct you, and perhaps it's not the most polite and the sweetest correction, but I feel very uncomfortable when my identity is not considered or respected. And those of us who are part of these communities, it should not be incumbent upon us, right, to continue to take on those microaggressions, those macroaggressions, those slurs. The intent is not at all what I'm talking about here. I'm not interested in your intent, to be totally honest. And one of the things that I'm really proud of my community for, and that has been a learning and building experience for us, is that there are folks there who really had a lot to learn. And they would sit back and hear our corrections as corrections because we wanted them to do better, because we wanted them to stick around. And I that may not be the norm around Twitch and around the internet, but I'm very proud of the work that we've done in my community and in a lot of the communities that I'm a part of in making that clear, that we can ask for and what we need. We can tell you when you've done something wrong, and you have to understand that whatever feelings you may be hurt from that, we are the one who is being isolated and othered, right? I just wanted to say that as part of this whole setting boundaries within our communities conversation.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Brian, if I'm not mistaken, you did stream before COVID a little bit, right?
Yes.
Okay. So your experience is going to be totally different too.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I have nothing to add. They were like, wow, y'all. I don't know.
All right.
I greatly admire and respect both Eugenio and Kelly. It's been interesting since streaming before. It was like a whole lot changed, not immediately, but within a few months of us realizing, okay, this is real and we're going to have to change everything. A lot of people did turn to their normal sources of entertainment, but Twitch, and we talked about parasocial relationships, Twitch is a lot different in that we're people and we are entertainers, but we're not like you think of maybe a bigger, grander stage of entertainment. And there may be people who have parasocial relationships with celebrities, but with us, we're here and reacting in real time, and you hear about our normal daily foibles and problems and issues, and you say something in chat and I can immediately say, hi, or I remember you because you were there before. You develop more of a connection, I'll say, as opposed to a relationship with somebody who's streaming. And I feel like I said this even before the pandemic. There was one stream where we were talking about this, and I had to tell everybody in chat, like, I'm friendly, but we're not friends. And there was one person who mentioned that, like they came to me months later and they were like, I really kind of needed you to say that, just because it's harsh, but it's true. And we're very, cozy is absolutely what we are. We are a very cozy, comfortable, friendly community. I try to be good about establishing my boundaries. I remind people in chat that they are welcome to establish their boundaries, even with each other and within the community. And it's definitely, though, there are people who have not stopped using Twitch like they did before the pandemic. It's like, okay, it's my entertainment, it's my background noise, but there are definitely people who were just looking for those channels to watch that weren't, they weren't people shouting and screaming. They were just, somebody playing a cool game and being chill and fun. And, maybe that made for the nice brain chemicals for them. And as Eugenio said, we remind people that we can be here and listen sometimes when you're going through it, but we're not your therapist. A streamer is not anyone's therapist. Even if they are a therapist, they're not your therapist. Like, so it's definitely, it's been an interesting line to walk since for the past year and a half. Like, this is it. This couch is like my studio, my office, and where I relax. And it's like, okay. But I still enjoy it. Like Kelli and Eugenio, this is a bit of performing for me because it's not my day job. But I really feel like everything got a whole lot different once people were following rules and protecting themselves and staying inside, because you really were missing some kind of connection and some kind of interaction. And online communities have always had that, but now you have online communities where you can see somebody react with you in real time, and that's made it very different.
That's a really, really good point. And I cannot stress enough, please go find the panel on parasocial relationships. A lot was said on that panel that like we can't even touch because it was so well said. So please go find that. I think it was it bears going there to learn a little bit more. And then, I mean, you're here for now. But so a theme I'm hearing from everybody is that the conversation around mental health has changed. And we're going to put a big old pin in that whole streamers are not your therapists, because that's important. We will get back to that. But the conversation around mental health in general has changed. I've personally felt like just the whole world is kind of more ready to talk about it. I've seen a lot more tweets that mention like, hey, I'm burnt out, so I'm taking like a week off. Like, these are conversations that I still don't think they're mainstream, but I do think that they're coming through at least like the Twitch zeitgeist. And I want to know how you all feel about that. Eugenio, can we start with you?
Yeah.
And you can disagree. You could totally
No, I don't disagree. No, I'm trying to figure out how to expand on it because yes. Yeah, I do think so. I think, well, first I want to say, how great is that? Like, let's just take a moment and say, how great is it that we feel like that we are in a place where not only are we able to talk about it, but that is leading to folks getting diagnoses, to folks sort of understanding, to folks on, even if it's as simple as I understand now that it is okay to not be okay. Like, that is a term, a phrase, a meme, whatever that is tossed around, but it's true. And I don't think that would have been a meme. I mean, memes wouldn't have been 15 years ago, but had they been things, that wouldn't have been one, right? So let's start there and just say, it's great. It is great. And I think that it has empowered a lot of us as we have these conversations, both with each other and with professionals and professional adjacent folks, that we are all learning ways that we understand what true, real self-care is, right? Taking care of ourselves and what that may look like for others. So again, as a streamer, I'm able to go in and sort of say, hey, you know what I'm not is your therapist, but you know what I can do? And I try and do this whenever I think about it in my channels, is say, do folks have stuff they want to celebrate? Do you have good news for the channel? And it's not because I want to be toxically positive, because that is absolutely a thing as well. And it's not because I want to ignore that things can and often are quite bad, and that I know there are folks in my channel who are struggling. But also I know that they come because they want to be able to release that at least a little bit for at least a little while. And so knowing that and having had those conversations and sort of knowing at least a basic vocabulary around that allows us to find things like share your good news, allows us to have rules like let's watch out for ableist language, for anti-neurodivergent language, because that can be, at this time when we are all sort of sitting with this weight on us, that can just make it that much worse. And I think the little things like that we found are not panaceas. They're not going to solve the problems of the world. They're not going to solve the pandemic. They're not going to, whatever it is, but they're going to make things a little bit easy for you. And that is all part of this mental health conversation. And it's, I don't know, it all sort of rolls together, right? One begets more of the other, begets more of the other. The more we have these little rules and have this space that feels safe in terms of language, the more we feel like we can talk about it, right? And we do have those conversations in my chat too. particularly when I play a lot of really story heavy RPGs. So we talk about the racism that is written into this games sometimes when we all feel up to it. Right. And that's a very clear thing that I set that boundary originally at the start. And there are days where I say, hey, y'all, today's not that day. Today's not that day. Let's not. I mean, I know we're going to avoid those quests. We're going to do other things. Today's not that day. But sometimes it is that day. Sometimes it's that day to talk about relationships. We love our romances in my games, right? So maybe sometimes there are things that we feel we are ready and able as a group to talk about in terms of taking care of yourself in the context of a relationship. And sometimes we're not. But as you said, it's more in the zeitgeist. It exists more in the atmosphere. It is talked about more. And so we know better how to have those conversations without very quickly sort of either falling into some, very dark place that is not healthy for anyone, or even also to just sort of make those missteps to end up causing harm where help was intended. Because, like, as I said, the intent may have been help, but if the impact was harm, that's a problem. But we know so much more now. Even the Joe Schmoes, the non-mental health professionals, we know more. We don't know everything, and hopefully most of us don't claim to. But we know enough that we can take care of ourselves, which means we take care of those who hang out with us.
I love that, because if you're starting the conversation, you're automatically going to go kind of both ways. That's what I feel like that the healthiest mental health discourse in communities is not, all right, everybody complain about your day, but it's also
right.
Not everybody talk about all the awesome things that are going on. And don't you dare tell me you're having a bad time. Not right now. Like, right. There's that balance that we're constantly striking. And you're striking it also with a ton of people watching you at the same time. Like, how do they feel? Like, maybe you are in a space to talk about race today, but maybe people in your community are feeling a little bit more vulnerable. Maybe, and having those temperature checks and really getting to know the people who are part of your community and seeing them come back because of the conversations you're having and because of how delicately we try to keep everything in the balance. All of that's so crucial. Thank you, Eugenio. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I've talked so much and I want to let them talk, but you made me think of something, which is that that's a lot for us.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this like it is an easy thing because, I've attended some mental health panels. I'm capable of, no, it's hard.
It's hard. It's tiring.
It's hard. And it's a weird, I have to say, if I really think about it, it's a very strange thing to ask an entertainer to take on.
Right?
It's very strange.
Yeah.
And the fact that some of us do shouldn't mean that you should expect it. And the fact that some of us do, please don't forget that, and we won't let you, but please don't forget that it's not difficult for us. And we want to be helpful where we can. And a lot of folks are good at that. They're able to hear, this is beyond me. This is not something I can handle. I appreciate that you're struggling, but now is not the time and place. But even just that can be hard. Yeah. These two can expound upon that more if they like, but I just wanted to say that I didn't want to make it seem like it was an easy thing that we'd all just learn to do.
No, I, you know what? It's one of those things where I think I took that for granted. I was like, yeah, obviously it's hard, but like, that is something I think that bears saying. Cause like, you don't go up to Jennifer Aniston and go like, I had a really bad day today. You'd come up to Jennifer Aniston and be like, I'm so excited to watch your movies. I love doing Friends, whatever the heck, And so it's a very, very different dynamic and it's a lot of weight. So thank you for pointing that out. Brian and Kelly, I think I'm going to let you duel to the death to figure out who's next. No? All right.
You're
Kelly,
fine.
do you want to go? Okay.
See,
Unmuted first. Brian unmuted first.
Dang it.
No, Brian unmuted first. That means he automatically volunteers.
Okay, fair. While Eugenio was speaking, it actually, I'm glad he kind of added that on to the end because I also realized, like, as difficult as it is, think about how all of that, almost reverse that funnel and turn it back around to the person who's on this end of the screen. And the fact is that we, it's why we establish boundaries for what we are sometimes not able to handle that day or want to talk about that day, because as much as we love everyone else to just have, my Discord has a place where if you want to scream into the void, you can scream into the void. Not necessarily while somebody is live and trying to entertain you on the internet. And a lot of that is hard for us as streamers to be able to manage while we're also trying to I mean, we do this because we have fun doing it. So we're trying to have fun ourselves. We're trying to pay attention to a game. We're trying to engage with chat. It can be a lot if that's, if everybody's really like down in it. Sometimes it's like there are better places to have that conversation. And I thoroughly take this as a resource and give it to people and say, here are resources for you if you need something that is more than just hanging out in a friendly chat. So yeah, I was very happy to hear him talk about that, because it's like from this side, it's really a lot. And we talk about people coming in, and the phrase trauma dumping, which I'm not like, I feel like we're starting to over and misuse the word trauma, but that kind of thing where somebody comes into a chat and they are really going through a rough time, and they come in and they want to talk about like they're going through the worst of the worst, and you aren't really, you're not capable to handle that or speak to that, and that's a lot for not only us but everybody watching. So yeah, having those moments when this is not the place for this is so important. And I don't know, like, he said so many good things. He's good at that.
He's really good. Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw it to Kelli and make her talk now.
Kelli, I'm sorry. I wasn't actually going to make you battle to the death. I would have stopped before, anything bad happened. I promise.
I would have just held up the dog. He can't hurt the dog.
That's true. That's true. There you go. There you go.
You're good for something, bud. Anyway.
Oh.
Kelli and I are both tall, so we have a long reach. So that's not really an obstacle.
It's true. I mean, he's only 9 inches tall. It's not that hard to, just take him and put him somewhere else. So it's going to sound like a very weird place I'm going to start with this, because it's going to address the whole it being more open now to talk about it. And I've told this before. I don't know if y'all have heard it. If you did, I'm sorry. But back when I was first diagnosed with ADHD, first off, they didn't even call it ADHD. They also didn't think girls could have it. So my parents had to fight. And finally, I got skipped the grade. I got put on medication. And I just always had that thing. And people with ADHD will understand what I mean, where you should be able to do it yourself, right? You shouldn't need help, right? So when I was 13, my parents agreed that since it's my body, I can make this choice, but they're going to watch and make sure I'm okay to go off medication. So for over 20 years, I was unmedicated for anything. And of course, ADHD comes with a lot of fun comorbidities. But when my husband got diagnosed with MS, every coping mechanism I had failed. They were gone. I couldn't rely on any of the plot armor I'd given myself anymore. Because it's like, hey, you rolled the natural one and fell into the lava, and you got nothing left now at this point. So when I started streaming and when I started getting a following at all, I was like, oh, well, I still have to be that person. I still have to be the product. And as one of my favorite authors says, sin is when you start treating people like things, including yourself.
Ooh,
and so when I came on the scene, I was this super positive, hey, all caps lock, look, I'm always happy, look, I can make you laugh. And then I had like a really bad day one day, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to stream. And my husband sitting behind me, he was like, well, what do you mean? He says, I don't know if I can get up the energy to be the opera geek. And he was like, so just be you instead. And I was like, people don't want to see that. I've spent my entire life, much of the time in school, and even, I'm sure Eugenio can speak to this on the musical theater end, even in conservatory and even in the opera world, it's kind of like, don't let anybody know about any of your problems, because that makes you a liability. Okay. It makes you somebody we don't want to hire, or that opera company is going to look at you differently if you are open about the fact that, hey, I have rather severe ADHD, and I am diagnosed clinically depressed. It's okay. Still going to show up to rehearsal. I'm still going to be a good colleague. But Justin looking at me and saying, just be yourself, was kind of a turning point, because I was like, okay, well, I guess I can give it a shot. And once I started doing that on stream, the next step was him saying, you know, I really think it's time you went back to the doctor and started taking care of yourself. You know, and it's funny how the openness about mental health for me didn't start with the public acceptance of mental health. It started with my husband saying it's okay. You know, and I think it's important for people to understand that. One of the things I tell people a lot, because we've had people come in and say, you know, if we're playing certain games or whatever, they'll start talking. And I've stopped games before and said, you know, I need you to stop, because you don't know what other people in the chat have experienced in their lives. That's the reason that lines and veils exist in tabletop games. And I've had circumstances where those have been crossed and it wasn't stopped, and I've just walked away from the camera, gotten up and walked away. It's very important to respect that. Unfortunately, a lot of the actual proper language around many mental health things has been co-opted by people using it to make fun of us instead. And so I've had people mock the fact that I put open trigger warnings in my chat. If I'm playing Hellblade, you bet your butt I'm putting a trigger warning in that chat, along with the links that the game company actually, to their credit, provided in the game to mental health resources. You know, and it really is, it's nice that we're more open about it. But once you're more open about it, people kind of seem to think, oh, well, if they have these kind of issues too, then I can just go to them. They'll be able to fix it. And first off, as someone who routinely thinks I am broken, you actually don't need to be fixed. You know, there's no power tool that's going to fix you. There's no single magic pill that's going to fix you. So what you have to do is say, well, if I'm gonna be like this, then we're gonna make it work for us. You know, if you can't make your own neurotransmitters, store-bought is fine. There is a sticker of that someone made with little cat-shaped pills, like little kitten-shaped pills, and it is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, it's nice. But back to, and I'm sure everybody can guess who the favorite author is. If you can't, just go read my Twitter sometime. But back to the, you know, sin is when you treat people as things, including yourself. And I think that's something that people saw a lot in the pandemic, because selfishness was on full display. And you saw how people thought of other human beings as things. And I think that's a point where you have to put your foot down if you have any kind of platform, and not be afraid to say, no, it's not okay to treat me like that. It's not okay to treat my friend like that because they're different than you. It's not okay. So some things about being more open with the talk I think are great. Some things have opened up some pretty dark cans of worms. How would you even have a can of worms? It's just very weird. No, okay. Brian. But yeah, I'm sorry I talked too long, but yeah.
That's not a thing. So that's good. You're good. But
I'll give the dog a milk bone. That'll make up for it.
Thank you for self-disclosing. And I normally don't do this when I moderate, but my experience is very, very similar to yours. It's actually kind of eerie to me how similar. And what happened actually, so I've been, my whole thing, I think whoever knows me, is I'm a mental health talk show host, talk about mental health all the time. And even I set out to be like, I'm going to be real. If I'm depressed, I'm going to talk about depression. And then I was like, wait, but I don't want to bum people out. What do I do about that? And like, so all the boundary setting was happening. But the other thing that happened in 2020 was I literally broke down sobbing on stream because I was like, I still feel like I'm wearing a mask in front of you all. I was like, I talk about this all the time and I still feel like I'm here to be like, but it's okay, right? Like you got depression, but it's okay, right? Like, and there was a huge breakdown in 2020 of like, I can't pull that off anymore. I don't know why I was pulling it off. It was a huge self-discovery, but I don't think it's also like a purposeful thing. Like, I don't think we mask always knowing we're masking. I think it's just like it's such a coping. It just turns on and you're like, I'm me. And then you're like, that none of that was me. The 20 minutes.
I'm the me that this person wants to see at this moment.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately. But so thank you for self-disclosing. And I hope it's okay that I inserted my little experience in there as well.
You are on this panel.
What
you're on this panel. I mean,
I am?
Talk.
Yes. So I don't know if we have enough time, but we're gonna unpin that streamers are not mental health advocates. We're gonna remove that one. And that's how we're gonna try to wrap it up with that. So good luck to all of us. But yeah, that's what the research said is please do not treat me like I am your therapist. Please, Twitch, make sure that resources are available to people so that they know where to go. Take This is amazing. Games Hotline, amazing. To Write Love on Our Arms has a therapist finder. Take This has a therapist, like amazing resources. But the four of us know about them because like this is our sphere. I'd say like I probably wouldn't be wrong in guessing like 95% of streamers have no idea that those exist, or the amount of messages that I get at least once a week of somebody being like, oh God, somebody came in, I didn't know what to tell them. Where do I go? Where to go? So, and the fact is what we uncovered in the research is that Twitch hides, there's a great Twitch Cares resource that has a bunch of links on it. And there's 5 clicks before you can find it. Like if you just, I don't even know, actually, I don't know if you type into Google Twitch Cares, if it comes up immediately. But like off of Twitch, it's 5 clicks. I can't even tell you where right now I would go to get to those 5 clicks. So that's how obscure it is. But yeah, so the point is streamers become de facto become de facto mental health first aiders without necessarily having the first aid training. And so discuss. Take a moment and then, take your time.
No, I mean, if not, I mean, I even when we were just talking about, when we were getting together to talk about doing this, I had not even realized that there were streamers out there who, I don't know if they intentionally or kind of ended up sliding into I guess posing as, because I actually do want to be very harsh in the language, posing as therapists. Because, it can be one thing if you're like, oh yeah, people come in and you think you're that advice guy. You think you're the next door neighbor on home improvement. Like, oh yeah, I just people can talk to me and this, and then thank you for that long, yes, everybody sip.
Everybody sip. That is a sip moment. Thank you.
There's a big difference in like having a lot of years on this planet and a lot of life experience, and then having everyone come in your chat and say, oh yeah, well, let's talk, and setting up things that are akin to therapy sessions live on stream with no safeguards, no boundaries, no rules, and no training. And I was just like, it was a mind blown moment. You sent me links and I'm just reading like, how is this okay? So that to me is like, that's huge. And it's why we kind of repeat that, like, we're not your therapists. If watching us is something that helps, that is having a nice person talking in the background helps, great. That's fantastic. But there are always going to be limits where, I haven't had to say for a while, but I have had to say, like, I can't help you. I can't take that on. And then of course, all of our mods have the ability to say, here's where you can find resources that will. And yeah, I just learned about that Twitch Cares thing, and I am blown over.
And like you know about mental health stuff like that, and all I'm asking even is just like October 10th, Twitch. Super simple. October 10th, I want you to tweet out, we have a Twitch Cares page. It already exists. That's all I want you to do. That's all I don't know how many millions of followers. That's it. Just the difference that would, can you imagine? So I know that's a really tough ask because I'm going to just sip some tea. Eugenio, would you like to continue?
Couldn't remember which direction I'd muted in. Yeah, I mean, it's all of that. You know, this is a hard thing to say, and I'm gonna say it because I think it's probably, you all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a thing that a lot of us don't like to say, but is true. Whatever else we are, those of us who are streamers on Twitch are entertainers.
Yeah.
And yes, we foster communities, and yes, we have interactions with people in those communities. And yes, sometimes, particularly when parts of those communities are in the same physical location and can meet in person, yes, friendships can blossom from that. But we are entertainers. And it's not upon us, nor should it be, nor should you want it to be your therapist. And where that seems super obvious, but where it gets hard is that I tend to think my particular taste in Twitch streamers are those who are empathetic, who are understanding and sensitive and aware of all of the things that we have talked about today, and who want to make the space better. And I think that's the kind of streamer that we all are. And that makes it tough because we have empathy, because we see you all out there, because we want you to feel better, because we want to help you. And it can very quickly leave our control. It can very quickly spiral. The truth is, it can be a heady thing to feel like you helped somebody. But that's not what we do. And it shouldn't be what we do. And this isn't the platform for it. There are 1,000,001 reasons that even if I were the most qualified mental health professional in the world, that this is not the place to do that sort of work, in my opinion. And certainly not those of us who are not the most highly trained mental health professionals in the world, right? And that is tough. That's tough for our audiences to understand because we want to be there for them. It's tough sometimes for us to remember because we want to make this space better. But that's not what will happen. Here's the point I'll get to, and then pass it to Kelli. That's not what's going to happen. We will help to a point, and then we're going to stop helping. Something is going to happen because we are not prepared, we are not trained, we are not ready for that thing that will inevitably happen. It might take a year, it might take 5 years, it might take 5 streams. But something's going to happen that we are not prepared for, that you as a streamer are not prepared for, and you're going to handle it poorly, and folks are going to get hurt. And that's not what we're here for. You know, those of us who are here to make this space better need to understand that we can do that without overstepping our place. And I don't mean to say that a streamer's place is as an entertainer. No, of course not. I don't think anyone thought that's what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it anyway because what a vile and reductive way to think of a person, right? But at the same time, making a space where I feel comfortable and where you feel comfortable exchanging thoughts and ideas about our political beliefs or about our needs as a marginalized person or about mental health is not the same as trying to be someone's therapist. And that is a thing that we all have to remember, streamers and audiences alike sometimes.
Thank you so much, Eugenio. That's amazing, amazing points. And I do also want to remind everybody, takethis.org/mental health dash. Is that a dash? Mental-health-resources.
Mental-health-resources.
There it is. I I was like, I know what this symbol is. I've seen it in my world and I know what it is, but I cannot tell you now what it means. But yeah, okay. So start with takethis.org and go from there. It's a very good UI. You'll be able to find your way around in the resources that you need. Kelli, this way.
So I like listening to a lot of true crime. I listen to a lot of true crime. Nobody trusts me to solve cold cases. You don't expect a true crime enthusiast to suddenly, I probably shouldn't point out the Zodiac because that did just happen, but but you're not going to expect that from somebody that just listens to podcasts. So why would you expect therapy from someone that doesn't have training in that? And it's dangerous. It is flat out dangerous. I said it in the chat. Savior complex is real. You can really fall in love with the idea of being the hero that swoops in to save the day and save someone from themselves. Mm-hmm. You're not. You can tie the blanket around, you can run around in your underpants, but you're not an actual superhero. You're just causing harm if you don't give resources to the correct places. And I'm also going to address something that one of my moderators, French Talk, just said. They said, don't use your friends as therapists. I am 100% guilty. I am guilty with both of these amazing people on stream right now of unloading and then being like, oh my God, I haven't even asked them how their day was yet. And you have to be a little more self-aware than I tend to be sometimes when it comes to realizing that we are now part of this huge connected, like interconnected community. And you push one domino of, hey, I'm going to tell this person this therapy will work for them, and I'm going to tell them how to work on their mental health. You've just pushed one domino. And then they're going to go tell someone else, that's how you fix it. And there goes another one. And eventually, it all falls down. And whether or not you even know that you've done it, you bear some of the burden of that because you should have just admitted, I don't do this for a living. I'm happy to listen to you and direct you to the proper resources. You know, it's very hard to say no. Sometimes it's very hard to set that line and say, I do not have the mental capacity at the moment to deal with this issue that you have, nor do I have the proper training to assist you. I am happy to help you find. You know, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's really it. You know,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And by the way, totally run around in your underpants wearing a blanket around. If you don't,
yeah, that's
then
pretty
you're
cool.
Just missing out, honestly.
Yeah. Especially like we're in our houses, like COVID, you're in our house a lot. Why not? You know,
wear shoes, not socks, so you don't slip, but wear shoes and do it.
Or barefoot's okay.
Barefoot's good too, but shoes better arch support,
work.
you know, because you're inside. So
it's true.
You know, you have to think of the little don't run in your onesie. I learned that the hard way.
Oh, that is how you break something. Yeah. Wait, some onesies have those little grippies on the bottom though.
My
I like the grippy feet.
Not.
Yeah, it's like the reverse of a bathtub. Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. My onesie doesn't have that one.
I'm sorry.
Learned that the hard way.
Thank you.
Oh, dear.
So much. Brian, Eugenio, Kelli, please find these lovely people on Twitter, which will lead you over to their Twitches, Urban Bohemian, DM Jazzy Hands, and the Opera Geek. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Over to you, Eve. Pause awkwardly.
Hello.
Hey.
Yay. Thank you all. That was a fantastic conversation. And all of you are such wise and folks with clarity. And and fantastic analysis of where we are in the world. And so I really appreciate that your voices and your truth telling, and thank you. So I am going to ask one of the hosts to unpin those folks so we can continue the conversation with just a closing, some closing comments. So thank you again, all of you. Bye.